Greetings, Coincall fam. Today is September 23rd, and I'm going to provide a Bitcoin market update since the last video about 2 weeks ago now. In the last video, we had a projection here, was feeling very bullish off the 52K lows, and thought that we had a play to long into FOMC, where we got a 50 bips cut, which we'll talk about a little later. And I mentioned that afterwards, potentially we'd have a correction. Things worked out a little bit. Well, first of all, we did hit 64K. We did not really get to 65. It was more 64.5K. We'll go over some charts later. But I'm gonna be focusing mainly on Bitcoin here. So the timeline of the thesis was that we'd long into FOMC and then we'd de-risk, but actually the price just kept rising even after FOMC when we got the 50 bips cut. So there was no de-risk. The market immediate reaction, at least, appears to have liked the 50 bips cut, and we eventually got to 64K, almost 65K on this move. Very briefly touched 64.5K. Again, I'll show the chart in a second. But now I think now that we're at 64K, it's time to be a little cautious here. At least I'm being cautious here, and I'll go through a couple of reasons why and how I plan to trade it. But I think overall, the thesis 2 weeks ago was overall right. The timing was a little bit off, and we didn't have the correction that I thought that we'd have right away. I think that we're potentially going to get some sort of corrective move in the near future, potentially this week or first week of October. But uh, I'll go over some of the reasons why I think that. But it's good to always review the thesis that you had in the market and see where things went wrong, where things went right. You're never going to be right 100% of the time. And this is a great example of that. The timing was off about when we would potentially hit 64, 65K. Now that we're here, let's see what we can do to take advantage of options markets and the types of trades that I'm looking to do now. First of all, the reason why I am concerned is that we are, number one, from just a price perspective, we've hit more or less the target that I wanted to hit, 64, 65, very, very briefly. And I want to just point out that where the current open interest on Binance is currently at a level where we tend to struggle in the past. It's around this like 12 billion to 13 billion dollar mark, and this data is from Velo. It tends to struggle here, and I'm not seeing the spot buying that would normally tell me that there's momentum. Sort of like what you see on the left-hand side here earlier in the year, just a lot of spot buying, which is denoted by these white candles. So I'm not seeing that here. I'm seeing some of the futures positions or perp positions peel off. It's getting a little bit choppy, as you can see. It hasn't been doing too much for the last couple days, and it kind of reminds me of August 25th. So I am being cautious here. This is perps data. Of course, it's important to look at the perps market even as options traders because this market is very dominated by perps, and it could give us some insights as to what this market might do and how we might be able to take trades as options traders as well. And I'll get into that in a little second. So this is the main reason. I don't see too much spot buying. Funding has gotten a little elevated. Prices chopping about. So not much progress is being made here on the bulls, and we are heading into just resistance levels in general on price itself. And then last but not least, the open interest is at areas where it has struggled in the past, and I tried to note that here with the vertical dotted lines. Okay, so this is what price currently looks like. I see, so, and you can kind of see here that it's very similar to this August 25th. We had the short liquidation, and really just not enough momentum to carry through to 65K. So my caution and alert signals are flashing for bulls. And it's time based too. Like perhaps there's a catalyst that comes that we don't know. I don't personally see it this week. It could be a large spot buyer that comes in and this changes everything. But for now, I lean very cautious, short-term bearish on this market. There are a few levels of interest that I'm interested. Um, I just said levels of interest where I'm interested. So there are a few levels that I think are of interest to me where price could potentially go. And the first level would be 61.8K. This would be kind of the aggressive. This is the first aggressive target of maintaining this bullish structure that really started September 5th. And if we can maintain this bullish structure, bottoming out somewhere around here would make sense. And I think it would make sense to take a first stab at long positions, whether it's options or spot on Coincall. I mean, even perp. I think that would be the first area of interest for me. And if that level doesn't hold, around the 59K level is where I would think about entertaining long calls for probably November, December. But I really want to see how it unfolds for now, because we don't even know if we're going to get there. I just assume right now that the market's kind of weak, but if I'm proven wrong, but so I'm just planning ahead here. For all we know, a huge spot buyer could come in. But like I said before, right now my default mode is to be very cautious, and I'm leaning bearish. So this is why I have a bias. So I'm just saying potentially we hit the 61K level, 61.5K more or less around here. It's not going to be perfect, or this 59K level. This is where I'm looking to do business personally. Okay, so that's the outlook for now. Let's get into trades. So I'm very interested in shorting some call options on BTC, and this is the Coincall September 27th expiration for Bitcoin. That's just 4 days away. I really think you can get away with selling like 65Ks for selling for three. Someone's willing to buy them for $389 right now, and I think these are relatively safe. Sorry, this is 65K. So yeah, I think this is relatively safe. I would even do this is kind of risky, but I would personally like just do this naked selling. If that is not your style, you could short 65 and long like a 67 and capture the difference between 65 and 67. But my view right now is that the market is stuck right here, so I'm pretty comfortable shorting these naked and just collecting, the $389 per contract that you sell. If you want to be more aggressive, maybe sell in smaller size, the 64K strike. It is a little closer to where we are at right now. Price just dropped right before I started making this video. It's at like 62.9K now. So this is very, very near term, and I think that'll work out. The other trade is for October 4th, so a little we got a little time on this, 10 days. And again, I'm very comfortable selling the 65K here. The bid is at 1,161, and the ask is at 1,199. So selling one of these, two of these, I think makes sense here, and you can collect $1,161 per contract that you sell. If you are trading larger size, what you see on the screen here is just what's advertised. You can always talk to the CoinCall community in Telegram to submit a larger order, or you can do an RFQ as well. There's a request for quote system. I am comfortable doing this. Strike here 65K. Again, if you do not want to do them naked, you can long the 67 and clip the difference. So again, you would short 64 or 65, whatever you're comfortable with. Let's just say it's 65. Let's say you get filled at 1,161 as a short because that's what someone's willing to bid it for. Then you long the 67. So let's say you pay 685. So you subtract the difference of 1,161 to 600 from 685, and then you get that credit. So that one's a little bit more safer because you're long the 67, and just in case Bitcoin rallies, you're hedged above 67, and you minimize your losses. Of course, you wouldn't make the full $1,161 from shorting the 65K alone, but you'll sleep a little bit better at night just in case Michael Saylor starts to buy another $2 billion randomly. So these are the trades that I'm looking to entertain right now. I'm not looking to buy puts. But if you are interested in buying puts, I really wouldn't be buying um, naked puts, and I'll tell you why in just a second as we go over the options data. So first of all, this is the Bitcoin implied DVOL index, and you can see that in September we started rising, and that kind of coincides with the price itself. Around the 9th, this is when the vol started to drop, and that's partially because we had the FOMC, and this is also why I said right around here this is around FOMC, and then they kind of came down. So it made sense because people thought that it was going to be a very, very volatile event, and it ended up not really being that volatile event. Usually those events are sell the vol events. So if you did, that's great. I think that worked out for you. However, ever since then, we've just been trending down. So we hit 60s here, 60, and we've lost 10 points now in rather fast fashion. So price even here, price was going up and vols are going down. So it's very tricky to play longs here, which is why I said that if you are going to buy puts, I would buy instead I would buy a put spread. So let's say we potentially go down to 60K, for example. I don't think now is the best time. I think at 64K would have been a better time because they're cheaper. But I would buy the 60K and short the 57 or 50 and make it a spread just to cheapen it up because number one, you didn't buy the puts at the top. We've come down, $2,000 or $3,000 now in Bitcoin, and number two, the vol here is just continuing to drop. So the volatile moves, they happen in little spurts, and you have to be very quick. You have to be very quick about it in this market. Doesn't mean you can't make money being long puts or calls, but you have to have very, very precise entry and exit points. But this goes to show you that the Bitcoin DVOL index is just trending lower. Here's the Bitcoin implied volatility structure. But remember, we had a quite a spike at like the 60s the last time we reviewed this 2 weeks ago, and that was because we had the FOMC. Now this is starting to look a little more normalized, I guess. Um, and oddly enough, I think that November is quite cheap, um, because we do have the U.S. election, and perhaps a call spread later on might make sense after we finish this corrective move. But I think, and I'm afraid to say this because the vols could just keep going lower, but I think that it makes sense to be an owner of vols going into the election in general. Um, because the reason why I think that is not because I hope that the vols go up, but I think it will be it will prove to be a volatile time period. Whether we get a Kamala, and Kamala just recently said on the news that she is turning positive on digital assets. Um, well, I don't know if we can trust her, but what the market thinks of that is more important than our own opinions. And I think the market will see that as a positive because she is currently leading in the polls. So something to think about. Like I think I'm personally going to be, and I wouldn't do this right now, but maybe after this corrective move or closer to October, so I don't pay the theta bill. But I am interested in putting on like a long call spread play for November. We'll talk about that more when the time comes. But for now, this is looking like a more normal skew. IVs slowly trend up over as time passes, so that makes sense to me. Just nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary here. 25 delta skews. Okay, so right now, as you can see, this has been moving quite a lot. Um, Currently, though, the front end is rising, so a little bit more bullish bias for the near term on the weekly. On the monthly, we're still skewed negative, and the 3 month, quarterly, and then the 6 month still skewed negative, despite the potential bullish Q4 narrative. Um, I find that interesting. I think the weekly makes sense because right now Bitcoin is at 62.9K, and people probably betting on 65K move. I will be personally betting against that, but I'm still a little surprised at the 3 month outlook here. I thought we'd be a little bit more positive by now, um, but it is a good representation of where the market's heading, of what the market feels right now. Implied vols, nothing too crazy here. So I think the most important thing to look at here is look at the weekly and the monthly, because the 3 month and 6 month are relatively stable. The action of So this is where you would probably want to be, you know, looking for long plays on the weekly and the monthly, and that's because, as you can see, the vols fluctuate a lot more. This is just from the last week. I really should have took the screenshot for the last 2 weeks, but this fluctuated a lot more than the 3 month and 6 month. So that's why I'm saying, like, if I were to be playing long vol plays, they'd be more on a weekly and monthly like time frame bias and views. I think that's where options traders that are looking to position long vols would be better off. Okay, and that does it. That kind of sums up my current market view. Hopefully, if you watched the last video, you joined along for the ride to 64K. Um, and if you didn't, well, I guess you just have to subscribe to the Coincall YouTube and get notifications for these videos. Um, Again, my current bias, in summary, is to be very cautious here. I am a fan of short calls and short call spreads. However, if you do want to play long puts, I would make sure to be, I wouldn't just naked long puts here, but I wouldn't blame you for trying to long a put spread. But I personally would be certainly making a put spread, just because, like I said, these vols, it's very tricky. You have to be very, very precise when it comes to longing these options right now, because the movements, they're very fast, and you need to be in and out. You need to have a precise entry, and you need to have a precise exit. And if you don't have that, and I'm going to say I don't always have it, I'm going to try to be cheapening up my position. So I'd be more of a fan of a put spread over naked puts at this current juncture. All right, guys, that is it. Hopefully, we get a nice dip to long. At least I'll be personally longing the dip. Um, and I'll see you guys all in the next CoinCall video. Thanks for watching, and cheers. Have a good one.